Hello, my crafty friends. It's Michelle, the Southern Shell, and I am here with the last Craft Your Stash winter themed. This is hosted by Tosha with Sunflower Tosha and Joanna with Joanna's DIY Life. Their guest host this month is Cynde with Z9 Designs. The host channels, along with the playlist, will be listed in my description box below. Project number one is a fun shaker bottle from 2022. Let me show you what I did for this throwback winter project.
Look at these adorable little wine bottle, dreaming of a white Christmas, little shaker in there. I love how these turned out. They're so stinking cute. Look at that. Well, I'm going to show you what you need to make these. Now, I used my daughter's leftover bubbly drops. Now, she has a soda stream and she uses these in her soda stream. And if you don't have access to these, I do know that Dollar Tree does sell the little bottles, and you can do something like this with those as well. And so all I did was I peeled the labels off, and as long as you don't get them wet or heated, they peel off rather nicely. If you do have an issue with them, use some Goo Gone or some Goof Off or anything like that, and it should help peel that paper away. And then what I did is I took the lids and I painted them so that they would have, they wouldn't be that bright yellow or purple or blue, whatever it happened to be. And I went ahead and I created this little decal here, and it's on my Cricut, and it says Dreaming of a White Christmas. I want to show you what you need to do next. So once you have your decal cut and trimmed out, I went ahead and I used some transfer tape and I put it onto my clean bottle here. Once that was done, I went ahead and I used some glycerin. Now this is just glycerin. You can get this at any pharmacy. Like, this is obviously Walmart. This is a little 6-ounce bottle, and you see I did 3 bottles and I still have over half left. What you want to do is you're going to fill this about halfway with your glycerin. I then took some of my mica powder and I scooped some mica powder, some of my gold mica powder, into my bottle. I then took some of this snowflake table scatter, perfect for the blue, and I put a few of these larger snowflake table scatters in there as well. That took a little bit of finagling getting it into those small little holes, but they did fit with a little bending and a little coaxing. Once I got that in there, so I have the glycerin, I have the mica powder, and I have the snowflakes. I then filled it up the rest with water. Glycerin alone is very thick, and I put the water in there, and that way this is not going to go moldy. It has a nice little floaty in there where it gives a little bit more texture to the snowflakes in there. It just turned out adorable. Once I got all that in there and I shook it up very well, boom, 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 boom. First, after I filled it all up, I put some Gorilla Glue on the inside rim and I screwed my top back on. That way this isn't coming off, because that is going to seal and that is going to not go anywhere. And then I took my shimmery embroidery floss and I tied it around the bottle lid, just right on around there, and then right on around to the other side, and make a little knot. And then I brought these back to the center and I used my hot glue, brought that on over and then up through that hot glue. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. That's going to come over. I'm going to hold it a little with my thumb and it's going to come right on up through that hot glue. And then I'm going to tie these here at the top. Tie it here. Now you can grab it, 2 pieces together, and then do your loop and stick it through that hole right there, and then pull it nice and tight. Now you have your holder. Now for extra support, I used some tulle, which gives it this cute little bow here. And I folded that in half and in half again so it fits around the lid nicely. And I'm going to take it and wrap it around the front. I'm going to crisscross it in the back, and it's going to come right back around to the front. And I'm going to tie it in a bow and make sure that's nice and snug. Shape it up just a little bit. Fluff out that tulle. We go. And there you have snow globes for your tree. Oh my gosh, I love how these turned out. Guys, look at recycling items. See what you have. This is so fun. Been able to go out and use my Cricut. Use stickers or use a marker, whatever you want to do. You don't have to have a Cricut for this to work. You can use stickers or you can handwrite it on there. I hope that you really like these as much as I do. I think they turned out stinking adorable.
Guys, this is a gentle reminder that this is the Craft Your Stash collaboration. Our hosts, Tosha and Joanna, have a guest host, Cynde, and their links will be in my description box below, along with the playlist of all the wonderful creators that are joining this collaboration. Check out everything in my description box below. Let's jump right on into the next. Now, this project number 2 is one of my all-time favorite flips that I have done. This is such a beautiful winter scene on an old antique style window. Let's jump right in.
So right now I'm just going to take my goof off. I'm in the garage. I have my blade. I am going to clean off the letters that are on here. As you can see, this is actually coming off quite easy just with the blade. And then I'll come on over with some Goo Gone, clean off the residue, then clean it with some Windex. So I apologize for the angle, but these aren't finished. But while the highlights are drying on my little cutouts, and I'm going to place Dream up there in the corner, I want to get the snow drifts on the windows. So to do that, I'm using some of my Snow White Waverly chalk paint, and I'll do a little bit of highlights with some plaster. I've got a little bit here on my plate already, and so I am just going to come in with just this big brush, and I'm going to just get some in those window corners, make it look like a snow drift. So as I'm going across these glass panes, I'm going to fill in what I can with this Snow White chalk paint, and I'm just going to use the end of my brush here, and I'm just going to dab it and put some texture on those panes and let it dry. This part is pretty simple. I mean, it's just some dabbing of the paint. You don't have to be a fine artist. Just get it on there and make it look like it has just been slopped up against the side as the wind blows your snow around. So here I have some wooden letters that I have gotten from the Dollar Tree. I've had these down in my stash for some time. Each package only has one of each letter. So in order for me to spell out peace on earth, I actually needed 3 packs of these to go through. I just saved the rest of them and put them in a bag. I picked out some chalk paint. I have mineral and I have moss. I'm going to go ahead and come through and paint all of the letters in mineral first and get that dried on there. And that actually matches the ornaments that are down at the bottom there. I got those after Christmas off Amazon. There were 30 in a pack for $9, and they really set the tone of this window. It just turned out beautiful. The ornaments were a very good deal because they are actually wooden and they're already painted, so I can use them in so many different projects. It was like a no-brainer for me to use it on this window. It was perfect. Now, after making sure that all of them are covered evenly, I'm coming back in with that green, and you can see I'm just putting it on the bottom of these letters so that it looks like it's an ombre from the top to the bottom, and I just put a little bit on there. Then I came back in with my ivory. I didn't want to go with Snow White because those ornaments were not Snow White. So I came in with the ivory chalk paint and I put it across the tops of those letters to make it look like snow. Now talk about digging into your stash. The bottle brush trees are from Christmases. I don't know how long ago. I've had them down in my stash. And then there are those little moss rocks that I use to put together a tree scene a few years ago. I'll attach that video below. And I just took that apart. It was one of those Christmas in Julys, just throwing things together. And I used those to make a tree scene. Here I'm just taking that apart so I can reuse what I already had. I'm cutting those little foam blocks down with the moss on them and using it as little hills to actually hot glue those tree bases on. Now I'm trimming the backs of the trees so that it will sit more flat against the window pane and not cause some bulging of those trees. Now continuing with not wanting to waste anything, I just scooped up what I had trimmed off the trees and the moss, and I'm using that to actually glue around the bases of those trees so that they don't look like they are actually wood discs and the trees are standing on, but that it looks like it has the moss on there. I went ahead and put spaced out the letters and getting ready to finish the bottom. Here is some regular moss I had had for years. Once again, down there, it probably was an old Walmart bag because it wasn't a Dollar Tree bag. I'm cutting the foam pieces down a little bit more so that those ornaments have a little bit of depth against that glass. And then I'm using the moss to glue around the bottoms to give more definition of the ground where these are actually supposed to be sitting. So after putting all these on here, I wanted it to look like the truck was driving away after getting their tree. Maybe they built a snowman while they were out tree hunting for Christmas, and the elk in the center there just watching as they go away. After I get all the moss on there, I did add some artificial snow. Now I make my own artificial snow out of old white grocery bags, the plastic grocery bags. I take and I shred them up with scissors. You can run them through your shredder if that's what you want to do, if you have one that will shred it enough for you. Otherwise, I just take my scissors and I cut it down, and it just makes this wonderful plastic snow.
And on to project number 3, another blast from the past, 2024, where I took some tin cans and made an adorable snowman candy dish. Let's jump right on in to our final project today.
Hey y'all, it's Michelle, the Southern Shell, and I'm going to show you what to do with some upcycled tin cans. Now these cans are actually the larger tomato sauce cans. I think they're like 42 ounces. And all I did was take them outside and give them a good coat of some of that Rust-Oleum primer, flat black, because I'm going to make some hats. So this is what they look like after I've gotten a good coat on them. And then the bottom of this is a 7-inch wood round, and I just painted the top, and then I Mod Podged this piece of Christmas scrapbook paper onto the back. I Mod Podged the piece of wood, let it dry, Mod Podged the paper, let it dry, and then I ironed them together, and it worked out beautifully. Look at that, perfect. Now I'm going to distress the back side of the black paper, and I'm using my Tim Holtz distressed oxide and black soot, and I'm just taking it and going around those edges so that it's not just a crisp edge of that scrapbooking paper, and it's just some holly and greenery on there so that, you know, I have a finished bottom that's not just a plain old black. It's going to have a little bit of personality. Now it's time to get that tin can onto that bottom. I am going to find the center here so I can just glue the bottom on down to that. I did not paint the inside of the can or the lid so that it would be food safe if you were going to put on some candy in there that maybe doesn't have any wrappings on it, so that you can put it in there and still be food safe. Now I just centered that and I just marked around the edges there so I would know exactly where my can would need to go. And so I'm just making sure it's all clean. I use the can opener that actually separates the seam, so there is no sharp edges on this. It's wonderful. So I am going to now use my Fabri-Tac, and I'm going to go around, skip about every 2 inches and put about 1 inch of my Fabri-Tac, and then I'm going to come back in with hot glue in between those Fabri-Tac areas so that it will hold that down until that Fabri-Tac fully cures. And now I'm just going to start on decorating that hat. I have some ribbon here. I believe it's from Hobby Lobby, and it was a Martha Stewart ribbon that I got at a thrift store. So I'm just actually folding in about 1/4 inch on each side. Now this ribbon actually has wire in it, and so it's easier to manipulate with the wire in there, but it also will slide out a little bit. So look at the inside of the can. You can see I'm lining up the back with the seam of the can, and on the other side is, I had forgotten to take that gooey stuff off where the label stays on, so that was something I'm going to have to deal with as well. So I put some Fabri-Tac on the middle piece of that ribbon, lined it up to the front of the can, and then stuck it there on the front and brought in my hot glue and attached the 2 middle spots of the ribbon with hot glue. And then I'm using my Fabri-Tac to get another good coat on both sides of that. And then I'm going to come right back in with my hot glue and finish off getting that ribbon situated down. Now it's time to get some embellishments done here. You can see I have my bottle brush trees up to the left hand side of the screen there, and I have some ribbon. Now I'm a crafter that crafts by the seat of my pants, guys, and I am so sorry. That just means that I kind of gather stuff around me. I know it's there and what I want to use is close, but I usually don't have it all laid out because I'm not that type of crafter. So here I'm going to be making one of those just messy bows. I have some twine on the bottom that I think I cut about 10 inches so that I can use that to tie this messy bow together. I'm taking different scraps of ribbon that has the same colors that are all going to be related, so it makes it a little easier and it makes it cohesive. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut those, and I'm going to make sure that those ends aren't going to fray on me, so that's why I'm using the lighter on it. I'm using that little tree from Dollar Tree, and I just cut little twigs off of it every now and then, and I use it for different things in my crafting. So here I'm just attaching those two together with some hot glue, and I'm finding out where's going to be the best spot for it to lay in between these ribbons. So I decided that's probably the best area right there. I'm adding some faux suede pieces in the black and the cream. I'm adding some satin and some white, and then actually the white was that little faux leather again. I have that burgundy, that wine color in that satin ribbon. Those I got off Temu quite some time ago. So just digging into what I have and trying to use my stash, trying to use upcycling products and getting it in there. So I'm just going to tie it all together with that twine that I have. Now I'm going to tell you, because I come back in and I dovetail those great big ribbons, do this before you lay it all down. It would have been a lot easier on me if I would have just went ahead and dovetailed them before I tied all this together. But like I said, crafting by the seat of my pants, I make decisions as I go along. So, but it's me. What can I say? Well, looking at this now, I'm just fluffing it out, trying to make sure that each of the ribbons can be seen. I think that's adorable. I think it turned out really cute so far. So I'm just going to go ahead and hot glue it right on down in between the wood base and that ribbon that is going right around our can. And then I'm going to go ahead and just glue some of those ribbons down so they're not going to pop up, but they actually stay in a way that I think they'll look best, and a little like a wavy ribbon instead of just standing out there nice and stiff. Give it a glue down. Look at it, maneuver it, see how it's going to look when you squish it. Just squish it all up there, swoosh it, whatever. You do you, boo. You do you. Once I get that ribbon kind of tacked down where I want it, I'm putting a few more embellishments on there. This particular pine berry and pine cone I got for it's probably under $1 at Temu. So I'm just kind of spot checking now on where I want any of the trees, or if I want the trees on there. I'm going to go ahead and pick out some more of some leaves. Once again, Temu for these little white eucalyptus and green eucalyptus pieces. And they're just little pieces of some greenery and some pearl and some white snow-covered branches. Here I'm just going to go ahead and pick up a few of those tips off of there. And now I'm going to be able to tilt this back and show you what we're doing here. This is the time when we start getting just creative with what we have. I look in my greenery stashes and I pull out a few sprigs of this, a few sprigs of that, different colors of greenery, any types of snow-covered things that I want to pop in there. Anything that is going to kind of bring out and bring attention to your beautiful little bow, and not to the seam of the can, not to any imperfections in the can, but just to the beautiful area that you have created with all of your little bits and bops. So here we've got some white berries and we have some red berries that we're going to pop in there. We're just going to cut the stems a little shorter so we can get them popped right on in there. And I'm just using the hot glue for this. This part I'm actually just gluing down some more of my ribbon to where I want them to stay. Now I won't necessarily do that to each ribbon, but I want to make sure that some of those don't just stick up and they don't just hang off the side, but I want them to have a little bit more interest. That little burgundy one, I went ahead and just tied into a little bow, and we'll get it nice and tight in there and then pop some glue on in behind it so it won't come undone. Now that we have the bow done, it is actually sitting on the side of our hat. If you look around the brim, you can see that there's a line in the wood, and it was quite a big line, and so I'm just going to add some more around that front of the hat. I put the bow on the side so that it would be just a cute little balance there, and we're going to put this greenery across the front. I don't necessarily like to have the big stuff right in the front there because it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But if you put it on the side and then bring some decorations around the front as well, I think it works a lot better. So that's what I've done here. And now I've got the lid. I have some of those mini ornaments. I got those from Dollar Tree. Yeah, I don't remember how long ago, but it was when I was driving. How about that? So I'm just going to hot glue that down right in the center of that metal lid and let that sit. And I'm going to go ahead and pick some of that same ribbon that we used in our bow, and I'm going to hot glue it around our little ornament there. I had taken the little hanger out of it. So I'm going to just go ahead and burn those edges so that they don't fray. Now I'm using this to actually help support that ball on the top of our lid there. So I'm hot gluing around that ornament at the base, right between the ornament and the base of the tin lid, and I'm using that to glue around and actually create more of a secure area for that ornament to sit and become the handle on the top of our lid. So I'm looking here to see what I want, if anything else, on the top of that lid. I don't want something to be in the way of me grabbing the handle, which that little mini tree would have done. I want something that is going to be helpful with that lid and that ornament staying on the top of that lid. So I went ahead and just cut a little piece of this thicker jute cord. This is one I get from Walmart. And so I'm actually taking that and hot gluing that all the way around that base again. And then I'm going to come in and add a little bit more of any greenery and anything that I want to add to that for some more definition, trimming off the ends of those that jute rope and finishing this off. This will make it so I feel comfortable enough that no matter who picks up this lid, it is not going to come off by the handle.
Well, here's the final reveal. This is the big window that I used. This is out of an old house, and it was saved and repurposed a couple times. Now it's mine, and it will stay like this for a while. I really love the way this one turned out. Then we have our Dreaming of a White Christmas bottles. Oh my goodness, did those turn out adorable! I can't wait to have more bottles to do this with. And then, of course, my candy jar. Guys, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to send me a comment below of which was your favorite one out of this list. If you've not subscribed, I hope you will consider doing so now by hitting that subscribe button. And as always, stay safe, God bless, and bye for now.